Good evening and welcome to BackChat. I'm your host, Temba Madima. I don't have my music today, but we're ready to go. This evening we're chatting to Marc Mundell. He's going to be with us this evening. He is a race walker. He's going to be jumping in now, one of SA's best walkers, also best talkers. So you should be looking out for this one. It's going to be quite fun. So just waiting for, Marc Mundell is in the building. Sorry for making you wait, Mark. I'm going to send you an invite, or if you can send me a request, we can get this party started. Welcome, everybody. This is BackChat, proudly hosted by Backtrack. Mark, where you at? Can you just send me a request? Let me see if I can send you a request, and then we get started. All right, good evening, everybody. Good evening. My name is Temba Madima. As I said, we're chatting to Marc Mundell. Hey, big boss, I see you. Try accept my request or send me one, and then I'm gonna. There we go. Let's quickly check here. Marc Mundell, my man. Get your questions ready. If you've got any questions, Marky, there we go. Are you showing me some snow there, Mark?
Yeah, beautiful weather back home. Nice and fresh snow for the day.
How you doing, brother?
Yeah, thanks, Emma. It's really great to have a chance to have a catch-up chat. It's been too many years, but yeah, kind of elated on the back of the performance over the weekend, and yeah, holding thumbs that it'll be good enough for the magic 5 rings.
Absolutely, we're holding thumbs. We're praying. I mean, at the moment, you in you within the numbers that are required for you to go to Olympic Games. So, man, we want to see you there, Mark. You deserve it. Like, I don't even want to. Let me not get into that yet, But I mean, thanks a lot for coming on. Really appreciate it. First question I want to ask before we get started, before I do your introduction, where are you, Mark? Where in the world are you?
So, Temba, a couple of years ago, back at the end of 2016, my wife got a job in Alberta, Canada. So we moved across, and we're based about 200 k's northwest of Calgary in a town called Rocky Mountain House. And this is where we've been for the time being. And yeah, enjoying life here in North America for a while, and just a great career opportunity for my wife. So we jumped on that, and it's been really good to be here.
That's a good husband right there. And you got a good wife. I mean, she supports you, with your walking. So yeah, I respect that, Mark. But let's get started. Before we get into the big questions, I have to do an introduction so that the people who are, maybe there's a youngster here who's like, hey, who's this Marc Mundell? So they can hear what a superhero you are and be acquainted, So we're gonna get started with that. But let's do a few welcomes. I see a lot of people are jumping on here. We've got Pacer Training that's on here. Welcome, guys. Erasmus Meandri. We've got Marina, Owen, welcome. Kalen Kalen Van Derm, welcome to you. Michelle, welcome, guys. Albert Brink, Parkin, Valdu. If there's somebody that you see that you want to shout out to, Mark, you must go ahead. I see I've got Marley Munich is in there as well. Ashley Van Tonder, I see you, Ashley. Welcome to you. Welcome, guys. Alaise Mark, there's Hurstur. Maybe there's somebody from overseas somewhere, I don't know. But
just here, mate of mine, Mark Hurst, just joining in. So Mark and I did the AASTS program together in Switzerland, and he's currently at World Athletics. So good to see you, buddy. Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, welcome, Amy Nadia. Welcome to you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is BackChat. With us this evening, listen very carefully. We've got a man who goes by the name of Marc Mundell. He is an Olympian, 2-time African Championship 20-kilometer race walk finalist. He's also a World University Games 20-kilometer race walk finalist. SA 20-kilometer race walk champion. SA 20,000-meter race walk champion. 2 times World Championships 50-kilometer race walk finalist. Listen, these are my favorite ones. SA 50-kilometer a record holder, as well as the African 50-kilometer race walk record holder. Ladies and gentlemen, Marc Mundell.
Thanks, Timber.
That's a vuvuzela, Mark. You still remember that?
I remember that fondly from the 2010 Soccer World Cup. So, yeah, that's the way it was.
Yeah, but once again, thanks a lot for joining us. I think there's a lot, man. I think of the athletes that I have so much respect for when it comes to number one, making sacrifices and committing to the sport and seeing it through, whether it's difficult or not. You one of those guys that, for me personally, you stand out, man, because I've seen your journey. I've seen what you've had to overcome. A lot of it, not all of it. Obviously, there's the COVID period, which I wouldn't know. But, you're still standing, man, and you're still fighting, man. So big ups to you. It goes a long way, man. I really appreciate it. And I know there's a lot of people who respect you for that. Mark, the legend.
No, Tim, it's been a pretty long career. I'm coming to the very twilight years of it, and the last hurrah really to try and get myself across the line and into Tokyo. That was the plan for last year, and then got COVIDed. So it's nice to be able to use that word nowadays, COVIDed. But here I am. Yeah, just a nice way to be giving back into the community and sharing part of this journey with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been exactly that. I mean, I think nobody expected it, but I mean, again, I'm happy to see that you're back in 2021. And to go. I mean, think about it, Mark. Like the last time you broke the SA and African record is 2012, if I'm not mistaken.
I did sneak in an improvement to qualify for Rio in 2015 and down in Melbourne. So if it happens this infrequently, I mean, I hate to know what would happen by 2040.
But I mean, it's amazing. I mean, 2015 and 6 years later, here you are again. Many would say, like you said, it's almost, you said it's close to your last hurrah, hurrah. But I mean, if you're breaking records at your last hurrah, hurrah, man, how much more is in that tank, Mark, the Shark?
Well, Tim, it's quite strange because with the opportunity to try and qualify for the Olympics last year, I raced in Ireland in Dublin. And at the time, I didn't know it was going to be the last race potentially of my career then. And I raced and got a 20K PB. So if the Olympics weren't happening, that would have been the race that I retired on in 2020. And then this race now being a 50K, potentially 2 PBs in my last 2 races. If things don't unfold, it's quite a unique way to go out if that's the way it ends up. So yeah, still holding thumbs that it won't be, but a nice memory if that is the way the cards play out.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a fantastic career, and I mean, yeah, like I said, I think Olympics will definitely. I'm trusting for it. I'm praying for it. I know it's gonna happen. Olympic Games, we're gonna see you there. I know it's gonna be it will be an emotional one, I can imagine. But yeah, before we get into that, Mark, we need to start in the beginning. I want to ask the first question. What is your nickname? I'm sure you've got nicknames on the track, off the track. What's your nickname, your go-to nickname?
I mean, a lot of people use the one that you refer to quite frequently, Mark the Shark, mainly because it's a reference to coming from Durban, but it's also a nice, fun play on words. And then it's probably the most frequently used one is because my surname ends with Mundell, but being South African, there's almost always been the additional A added onto it, and then it's just like Mundell and so I've had that one for quite some time. Yeah, so I've always had fun with those two, but like you mentioned, Mark the Shark is probably the most frequently utilized one.
The Mandela one is the best, though. Yeah, but yeah, like you said, most frequently used as Mark the Shark. I mean, Mark, you're such a yeah, he's such a big character and a person, an individual. And I mean, if I look at the guys like Lebohang Shange, as well as the likes of Wayne Sneeman, it feels like a lot of them have learned and have picked a lot of things off of you, which they've been able to plunge into their walking as well, which is, it's cool. You might not see it. I see it from like watching from the outside a bit. So my next question is, how did your love for walking begin? Where did this all begin? Did you start walking at the age of 1 month or a few days? What's the
Yeah.
process? Tell us, Mark.
So, Temba, I suppose the best way to give you the best context is that my dad was part of the, rightly or wrongly, was part of the apartheid generation where they couldn't compete in international track and field due to the sporting boycotts. And then
Yeah.
post-isolation, after 91, he actually competed in race walking events and represented South Africa from 1993 to 1996, competing in the 50-kilometer race walk event. So I'm literally having that play on words, following in my dad's footsteps, and I'm very much my father's son like that. So I grew up with that as my benchmark and wanted to beat all his best times, and I've smashed most of them. The only one that currently
Take
the
that,
only one
man.
that currently eludes me is the Comrades. He's still got a better time than me for Comrades because I haven't done it yet. But back in the day, he walked a 9:28 for Comrades. So that's kind of my goal one day to challenge myself to that. But I've been passionate about competing in race walking and got into some provincial teams when I was in high school. I got into an SA schools team to go to and compete in the vicinity of the Olympic Stadium in 2000, just before the Summer Olympics. And that was probably the biggest catalyst for me to continue my desire to get to the Olympics. And then when I moved up to the University of Pretoria, I went kind of fully into training there under the guidance of Chris Brits, who himself had been a formidable champion in South African race walking, and I was very fortunate to have him as a mentor for so many years. Absolutely. And so from that side, my passion for the sport continued to grow as I was desperately chasing the realization of competing at the Olympics. So I think it's fair to say big contributing factor was my dad. And just the unwavering support of the family to try and achieve it. Just talking about family, just a big shout out to Katie and Michael that are joining on, family, and then also to Kim. I saw her join a bit earlier, and then a friend of mine that went to the 2007 World Student Games together, Peter Kukumur. So
Peter.
So,
welcome guys. Thanks for joining. I see Tien's Ellis also popped in here. We've also got a few other guys. I always miss so many people. Oh, Jane Tipo, all the way from New Zealand. This is international, Mark. You like join crowds from all over the world. I see Lapitini. So many words and names that I won't be able to pronounce are on here. That's on you. Theo Pillay, welcome. Gail Karan, welcome to you. Kukamur, I see you. Katie Goldman. Godfrey Motapo, welcome. Good to see you, man. Really good to see you. If I miss you, just wave, guys. That's the easiest way I can see your name. Sometimes I don't even see the names. All right, cool. So, Mark, so obviously high school, you said you some provincial teams, and so on. 2000 being the catalyst of you deciding, you know what, this is something I want to pursue. Is it like a I'm trying to get to like the core of it. Is it a bell? Is it like a light bulb moment where you realize, wait a minute, man, this is something that I can actually pursue? Is it something that you just feel in your heart that you need to pursue? I mean, this is going to help a lot of young athletes out there as well.
I've been asked this question quite frequently along my journey, Temba, and I often say to people, it took me 16 years to become an overnight success. And I put that into context because I remember distinctly watching the 96 Olympics. I'm giving my age away here, but I am quite a bully in the track and field community. And I think in Doha in 2019, I was the oldest person in Team South Africa. So um, I remember watching the 96 Olympics and seeing Desire Tugwane and watching it and thinking that's what I would love to do one day to compete
Yeah,
at the Olympics. I never dreamt of a rugby World Cup or a cricket World Cup or anything like that. I like my passion had always been to go to track and field and the Olympics. I just don't know what event it would have been in. And hell, if I think about it, it would have been way cooler to be a 100-meter sprinter and you're training for less than 10 seconds, whereas I get full value for money on the track and field program racing for 4 hours. Uh, but yeah, for me, I've been putting everything towards trying to qualify, and it really did take 16 years once I'd set that as a goal. Through 2000, being in the Olympic Stadium a couple of months before. In 2004, I was helping at the HPC with the team handout of all the kit for the athletes that went to 2004 Olympic Games in Athens.
yeah,
And before 2008, I was training with the Australian Olympic team because I was in a training camp in Canberra and met a whole bunch of the athletes, and some of them went on to success in Beijing later that year. So it was really part of the fabric of my existence for a long period of time, getting ready and being part of the Olympics and being associated with people that were achieving and realizing the goals that I wanted for myself. So to the young people, it's all about patience, and so many people want the instant success and
yeah.
instant recognition, and there's nothing wrong with that either. It's just like the 50K walk, it's a patience game, and going round and round and waiting patiently for the opportunity to present. So
Waiting
it's
for the
difficult.
49K, yeah, Mark? Waiting for the
Yeah.
49K kick.
So that's the big thing about it. And yeah, basically you can see a similar parallel in my career where in the last year then still only just coming into my own. So interesting
Exactly.
time.
It's interesting. But it just goes to show it's just a testament of the person you are. You know, like if I go back to some of like your time here in South Africa where you were working at at the USA offices. I don't know if it was offices or the working at USA. You know, helping out athletes, having a full-time job whilst pursuing being a professional athlete at the same time. Just run us through that. I don't think people really understand, Mark. Like I've seen Wayne do it. Wayne, I remember, Wayne probably when I was working at the HPC for a while as well. He was working. I was the gym manager and he was working as one of the instructors there, and he didn't stay long. And I think people don't understand the demands of being a professional sportsman and working. How do you balance that,
Yeah.
or how do you not balance it?
So that's kind of the irony there. When I was training kind of in just a full-time student, so I say just a full-time student, but studying at the University of Pretoria and training, I probably just didn't have the base and the understanding of what I needed to do. And I was training what I thought was hard and doing as well as I thought I could. And I had all the free time to train and just didn't get the results. But then later on, when I was working full time and had less opportunity to train, what I think actually happened is that you start focusing and hyper focusing more, because I would train to be at work at 8:30. I would have to train 5:30 until basically 7:30 to get to work. And then in the afternoon, train from 5:30 until 7:30. And in the summer, that's all fine. But in the winter, that's where the challenge is, because you're training in the dark in the morning, the traditional Pretoria afternoon thunderstorm. and then training in the evening. So it really created an opportunity for hyper focus. And building up to 2012, when I did qualify to go to London, what was interesting is that I just finished my master's. So I've been working on the master's. I just started dating Joe at that stage. We've been together for a year and a half, and I had all these kind of compartments to my life that were, this is a time for training, this is a time for relationship, this is a time for academia, this is a time for working. And I think I thrived on that, where there were more things, and you had to be significantly more time conscious and manage time better. And I felt that served me the best, because if I look back or look forward from that point 4 years later, I resigned my job to train full time for Rio after qualifying in March of 2015. I resigned to train full time, and it was ironically the worst season of my life, because I trained at a much higher intensity and I was so much fitter, but I went from heavy training session to heavy training session. I was trying to push myself so much more because I had all the free time, and instead of managing my rest better, I had time to go and do things, and it actually backfired spectacularly, which was a big lesson that I learned. So yeah, that's also just something for some people. It's all very well training full time and taking more off your plate, but you've got to manage your recovery so much more optimally. And I failed to do that in 2015-16 season. So I learned my lesson.
That's very interesting. I mean, like, I think everybody, everybody sits back and thinks, that's the dream. I just want to wake up, train, eat, sleep, wake up, train, eat, sleep, compete, and unfortunately, it's not. I don't think, even for the best of athletes, I mean, if you look at a guy like Usain Bolt, I mean, all the traveling he has to do, appearances, you still need to do all that extra work and manage that, your time and sponsors and family, friends, all those things. Of all the sacrifices, Mark, what would you say is the one thing you're like, hey, this was probably for me the biggest sacrifice I've had to endure in my career?
Probably two of them, Temba, and both of them are the most recent phase of life. So in 2019, I committed to trying to get myself to Tokyo, and I signed up to do a master's program in Switzerland. And I actually see both Mark and Emilio on this feed. So I studied with them. So big shout out to Mark and Emilio. But
shout out.
I studied the course in Switzerland. So I was based in Lausanne for the year. But with COVID, the course didn't work out exactly according to plan. And I was hoping to be training full time whilst doing the course. But being in Switzerland, the weather was significantly better. And I was hopeful of being able to qualify and then finish up in 2020, July, August. In order to achieve that, the big sacrifice was leaving my wife at home in Canada, and we're doing a correspondence marriage for a period of time. So that was really quite challenging. And then with COVID, not being able to connect as frequently with the travel restrictions. So I think that was a big sacrifice to try and get myself a better academic qualifications for life after sport. So I was preparing for that, and a big shout out to everyone at the AISTS for making that program possible and allowing me the chance to pursue that education and for life after sport. And then the second big challenge and sacrifice was this season. We're expecting our first child next month. And so I flew away now. And because of COVID, I needed to be in Europe basically 2 weeks beforehand, to kind of 2 weeks semi-quarantine and multiple antigen tests and PCR tests, but to sacrifice that opportunity. So again, deserting my wife at, she's, what was that, basically 34, 35 weeks pregnant at that stage, to go and do 2 weeks away from her and then come back. And I'm currently in quarantine at the moment as part of the government regulation. So 14 days of self-isolation, living in the same house, but relegated to the basement and separate bathrooms, separate bedrooms for the 14 days, because I've got to be mindful of bringing back possible contamination from being in Europe. And then with her being pregnant, I'm not allowed to get into the hospital facility for the 14 days after traveling. So it's all these kind of challenges that could miss the birth of our first child together. So they're just a whole bunch of these kind of sacrifices that people don't notice and don't really know about, that goes on behind the scenes and building up to an international race. And this is the first race I've done since March of 2020. So just to get into a race, to get onto the start line, and then so many other things happening in the background, it's a big challenge, but totally worth it. And hopefully there will be some reward somewhere by the 31st of May.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, Mark, it's like you say, it's the stuff that people don't know, and it's the I see Peter Kukumari saying congratulations. Obviously, those are in order. But I mean, it's also that the sacrifices that go into, and I always say, Mark, I say obedience is more honorable than sacrifice. You know what I mean? And you being obedient to your gift and your purpose. You know what I mean? You've got how many? Let's call it how many years in your life where you can pursue being a professional sportsman. You can't do this forever. You have to honor that time, be obedient to it, and when the phase moves on, there's no regrets. You know what I'm saying? And I know you're a person who does not like regrets. That's why you're back again here, trying to push at it, for Tokyo 2021.
Yeah, and just talking about the regrets like that, going into 2012, I was working pretty much full time and trying to train, and didn't get to go on an altitude training camp because I had a certain amount of leave, and I was very fortunate to get the leave from USA at that stage, but had a certain amount of time. And I kept thinking in the aftermath of 2012, what could have been had I taken time off and gone on a training camp and been at altitude and really given it absolutely everything. So going into 2016, I did that, and I took time off, and unfortunately got sick, picked up at that stage African tick bite fever, and tried desperately, because I'm kind of in a bit of a panic mode, but tried to come back possibly a couple of days too early, and my immune system was still run down and compromised, and I picked up Coxsackie virus. And it's one of those things where you have so much time to think and devote to training full time, and so that really backfired. But I don't regret trying. I don't regret having booked the altitude training camp. I regret how much it cost because I didn't get to use it, but I don't regret having done that. I feel bitter that I managed to overtrain and get myself ill and not recover and not have the performance I was hoping for in Rio in 2016. But like you're saying, no regret. And I set out to try and get to Tokyo. If my race this last weekend is anything to go by, I'm still in really good shape. I'm very close, but it's all going to be touch and go. And I'll try and explain it a bit later if you want to follow up with a question on that.
Yeah, no, I've got an idea of it. I think it'll be good for everybody to understand as well. So we'll touch on that. But before we get into that, so obviously I wanted to ask who's your role model, but I think you covered it a lot. Your dad was one of the biggest motivators in that journey. I want to move to this one because this is probably the most important question for me, like with all the chats that I have. Your motivation, Mark. What is your motivation? What makes Marc Mundell? I mean, you just mentioned all the stuff you have to go through, the stuff that you do miss out on, whilst pursuing. And it's not. I wouldn't call it self-ambition. It's also, this is something that it makes you alive. You need to do it. So what is your motivation? What is your motivation through it all, Mark?
Yeah, Tim, it's a really good thing. I brutally honest, I never ever dreamt of being an Olympic champion or a gold medalist or a world record holder. I kind of realized fairly early on what my limitations would be and where I could be at. But I really believed that I had more in me than I delivered in 2012. And I really just wanted to have the one big performance at a big championship where it mattered. And that was always my drive and my desire.
Yeah.
And I think I just kept chasing that elusive race that I could say, if this was my last race ever, I would be happy to go out on that. And I gave it my all. And I didn't feel that during my career I'd had that one race. I felt that I'd been in positions to have that race and something had gone wrong. And different to an 800 meter or a 400 meter, but I'll use an 800 because that's your big event.
Yeah.
I felt very often that I'd got to 550 meters in the 800 or 650 meters in the 800, and I tried something different, and it didn't work. But the difference in a 50K event is you get to do one, maybe two in a calendar year. So you can't just go out there and practice them and, okay, I had a bad week, and then later in the month you go and do another one. Invariably, I have two 50Ks in a calendar year, and one is an opportunity to qualify, and the other one is an opportunity to race. And you can get one of your 50Ks, or in my case, one of the 50Ks, and you have conditions like I had in Doha, where it's really very challenging with the heat and the humidity. Or you could get what happened now in this race, where the snow was falling and it's -1 at the start, and I come away with a personal best. So you've got such a fluctuating opportunity to race. And I think that's what makes it really special, chasing opportunities to have your absolute best performance and fine-tuning a couple of things that have gone wrong in previous races. So I felt that I had pretty much the most perfect race of my career up until 43, 44 kilometers this time. So I just fell away in the final stretch. I got to basically the 90% mark. So,
it's such a far 90%. It's 43 kilometers into the race. Everything's going well. It's like, that's why, like, I've got so much respect for. I mean, you're an ultra distance walker. Like, I mean, just to put that into the mind of people who are watching here, is that, I mean, 50 kilometers. That is 50 kilometers. Mark, if I was to get into the car now and drive 50 kilometers, I have to think about it. I have to plan a bit. Take a bit of snacks. It's a journey. And
I mean, you're not that far short of driving from Pretoria to Johannesburg. I mean, it's a fair distance. You kind of get to Centurion and you're feeling good, and you go down in the dip into the Midrand area, and so I imagine from Pretoria University you get pretty close to Marlborough off ramp, and it's a decent distance.
It's proper. All right, Mark. Before we wrap it up, I want you to touch on explaining the whole qualification process and system, where you currently are. Obviously, I don't wanna. We talked about it. I want you to break it.
Yeah, I'll try and do a nice, succinct variation of how I understand the system. And again, this is my interpretation, and it might not be 100% correct, but this is how I understand it. Okay. So up until the 2017 World Champs, so from 2011 through to 2017, there was a time on the table, and if you met the time criteria, it was an automatic qualification to go to the Olympics. So for me, the time I needed to get was just anything under 3 hours 59, and I did that in 2012 and 2016, and that was how I managed to qualify for the previous Olympics.
Yeah.
Then, following the World Champs in London and going into Doha, they changed it to a ranking system based on a quota of athletes per event. So for the 50-kilometer, my event, they've got a quota of 60 athletes in the world. And there's an automatic standard, which is a time of 3 hours, 50 minutes. So that's what I was chasing. And for those listening and just want an understanding of what 3 hours, 50 means, it's 3 hours, 50 is 46 minutes per 10 kilometer, or an average pace of 4:36 per kilometer for each of the 50 kilometers. So that's a bearing of the speed and the requirements to get the automatic standard.
Yeah.
So with the automatic, you could have all 60 people could get the automatic, but as it currently stands today, as per the rankings released yesterday, there are about 35 people in the world in my event that have got the automatic already, and that allows for 25 spots to be available for the next 25 best in the world. And as of the 31st of May, when that qualification window closes, World Athletics will invite federations for all those athletes from non-automatics up until 60, and then you'll have opportunity for people to either federations to accept or decline participation. But that way it caps the participation at 60 for the event. So in the past, on the automatic, you might have had 40 athletes that meet the criteria, or 65, and the fields would fluctuate. Now you know that there will be 60 athletes competing in the field because of federations being able to approve or decline positions. So I find myself in a really precarious position at the moment, sitting in 56th position, despite having significantly better performances that I did to qualify for any of my previous games. I'm sitting really on the ropes at the moment, and there are another 9 weeks where people can still get in a good performance. One of the big challenges on this new system, which doesn't really help some people and it really benefits others, is that if you have a national championships and you win your national championships, you can get time bonus points. So unfortunately, there isn't a race in South Africa that I could qualify at because it needs to meet certain criteria as guided by World Athletics. But a bonus points for winning a national championship means that athletes will get 45 points for the win. And 45 points for a national champion is equivalent of almost 6 minutes on the race. So that means that somebody that does 4 hours and my time of 3:53:09 is almost exactly the same. And that just changes the entire dynamic of how bonus points add tremendous value to a person's performance. And would have been really super beneficial if I had that luxury going into this race. But it's just unfortunate given the way sport works and this new system. It's really adds tremendous value for people now that with the National Track and Field Championships coming up next month, that good performances are recognized and there's tremendous value for being a national champion competing on home soil. I've got 9 weeks that I'm going to be waiting and watching the rankings every week when they come out to see if somebody's got an automatic, to see if somebody moves up the rankings. So
Yeah,
Nice touch and go.
it's touchy. Yeah, it sounds like it's gonna be a nerve-wracking time, but yeah, we're definitely holding thumbs for you. I mean, like your performance, like you said. I mean, the standard went up tremendously, and then all this other variants also just makes it a bit more interesting, you know. But Marc Mundell, I think we're gonna wrap it up there. I see here Pawan Sharma Pujari says great personality and great runner. Nice to meet you.
Oh, you're going to have to
So
overrule that. He can't
welcome.
call me a runner.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm just
Pujari,
reading what
no.
I saw.
Yeah, I know.
Please don't run, Mark. I know it'll get you some time, but don't do it. Don't do it.
No,
But brother, thanks
running
a
is
lot
for
for joining us
retirement
this
for me.
evening. I beg your pardon?
Running is what I'm going to do in retirement.
Absolutely. Mark, thanks so much for your time. Thanks for, availing yourself with the time difference and all of that. I mean, it's always an honor and always a pleasure chatting to you, man. And I didn't even get to speak about other cool stuff, but I mean, time is moving here. We could have chatted about Paco Rabanne a bit, but we'll leave that. We'll leave that for some other time. But thanks,
No,
man. Continue, using your gift. Continue working, man. And we're holding fingers. We're gonna be praying. We're gonna be holding thumbs, whatever it is. To hopefully see you at Tokyo Olympic Games. But till then, brother, take care and be good.
no, appreciate you, and thanks so much to you and the Backtrack Sports family. So look forward to chatting again later in the year.
Absolutely. We're going to do that catch up and then we'll reflect on 2021, to be like, hey, what type of year was it, Mark?
Yeah,
But thanks a
no,
lot.
thanks so much, Timber.
Thanks to everybody who joined in and watched. Really appreciate it, guys. It was really fun. I had fun. I hope you guys did too. Gift Van Gongwenya. I see you, brother, and everybody who joined in. Thanks a lot, guys. Pacer training. Cheers, guys. Cheers, Mark. Take care, brother.
Cheers, Tim. Bye.
Bye.